reshuffle. We now zoom in on the vacant position of the country's deputy president following the resignation of Deputy President David Mabuza. The ANC's newly elected second in charge, Paul Mashatile, is tipped to replace Mabuza. Now, to help us zoom in on Mashatile's political career and what he's bringing to the position, I'm joined by Professor Keith Gottschalk, who is a political scientist at the University of the Western Cape. Prof, thank you so much for making time for us. All indications are that Paul Mashatile will be appointed deputy president. Well, when President Cyril Ramaphosa finally decides when those changes to his cabinet are going to be made. Who is Paul Mashatile and what does he bring to the position?
Paul Mashatile has been a lifelong political activist and very much a Gauteng and Johannesburg politician. He started political activism as a high school pupil in COSAS, the Congress of South African Students. He was detained without trial for years during the 1980s states of emergency, and he's occupied a dizzying array of portfolios ever since 1994, including, crucially, the MEC for Finance and Economic Affairs in Johannesburg, and he was a Gauteng provincial premier.
So there have been rumors, Prof, that some people that are in Cyril Ramaphosa's close circle don't trust him, right? The CR campaign didn't even choose him as a running mate for the president ahead of Nasrec. Could that be the case?
It could. I don't have personal information on that. And of course, once the results of the votes were in, President Ramaphosa is under pressure to work with whoever came second in those votes. Formerly it was Mabuza, whose votes played a key role in swinging the ANC Congress towards Ramaphosa. And this time Paul Mashatile is deputy president of the ANC. So he's very likely to be made deputy president of South Africa.
And that's the point, right? To be clear, the president doesn't have much of a choice. Yes, it's not a policy for the ANC to appoint the deputy president, right, of the ANC in cabinet. It's not a policy in the ANC for that to happen, but it's been a tradition for years, hasn't it? So if he doesn't, he's going to have a really good reason why he's not following on that tradition.
I'm fairly confident that Paul Mashatile will be appointed the deputy president. This is a political convention in South Africa really since 1994.
Yeah. Are there any controversies that defined Paul Mashatile's political career? He was once accused of misusing a government credit card. I don't know whatever happened to that and whether or not he was cleared. But have there been any controversies that were attached to his political career?
There have been inevitably controversies. His opponents and critics have denounced him as a member of, quote, the Alex Mafia, unquote. But that's just a nickname for politicians and businessmen who came up through Alexandra Township and doesn't have any weight attached to it. And most recently, he was smeared as having stolen R1 billion for the Alex renewal project. He pointed out that, in fact, no money had ever been allocated to this project, so it was just a smear by opponents.
It was under him, Prof, that workers for the ANC were not paid their salaries. I'm not suggesting that it was his fault per se, but the finger points at him as someone who at the time, was managing the finances of this political party. Has that stained his image?
It must inevitably affect it. He inherited the position of the ANC having smaller income than expenditure, and it does seem that he made efforts in remedying the situation because the ANC staff is currently paid.
Yeah. You could argue that the deputy presidency at some point became an invisible during David Mabuza's 5 years in office. How do you think Paul Mashatile is going to shape that office when he comes in?
Mabuza did important diplomatic jobs such as negotiating in South Sudan, and it's really the prerogative of the president to select which tasks the deputy president is assigned to. But I'm sure Paul Mashatile will have ideas of his own which he will pursue in addition to whatever tasks the presidency assigns him.
But could he, as deputy president, for instance, be tasked with any portfolio? I don't know. There are a number of things that are being considered. It could be in the intelligence services. We're hearing that there may be a minister of intelligence who is returned, or maybe overseeing municipalities returned to, fiscal and administrative health, or any other additional responsibility. I don't see him as a man who just wants to be in that office, right, and do, yes, the important diplomatic work that often deputy presidents do. I see him as someone who may want to be heavily involved in the work of this government. Yes,
there's no doubt that Ramaphosa will think of various tasks to assign him. It could be anything, as you said, from intelligence to electricity in it. And in addition, I'm sure Paul Mashatile has got projects of his own lined up that he wants to give some attention to.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that Mashatile will be, using this position to play the long game? Because the eye is on the prize, right? His performance in this next post will be quite crucial for the chances of being the next president.
Certainly, Mashatile is a decade younger than Cyril Ramaphosa, so he's certainly in the running to compete as a successor to Ramaphosa when the time comes. Whether, of course, that will be president of South Africa or leader of the official opposition will depend a lot on the 2024 and 2029 general elections.
All right. Professor Keith Gottschalk, a political scientist at the University of the Western Cape, thank you for making time for us.